right. Nice to meet everyone here. So general agenda that I want to cover today is talk about why you want to integrate Power Apps and Teams, the ways we can integrate, and then dive into some demos. A little bit about me for those who don't know me. Like I said earlier, I'm a partner technical architect here at Microsoft. So my job is kind of to work with our partner base and help them get skilled up and build solutions in the Power Platform and specifically within Teams. I'm active on Twitter, so if you have any questions at all, want to reach out to me, you can find me on there. I have a blog, and as Craig said earlier, I do have a YouTube as well. So if you want to see any videos about the Power Platform, SharePoint, and Teams, I have those out there, and feel free to subscribe if you like. All right, but enough of that. Let's just dive right in. So why Power Platform and Teams? Like, why integrate the both? Well, I wish I could, if we were in person, I'd have everyone do a show of hands. Like, how many of you are in Teams? Like, we're in Teams right now. So I know we're probably all using it a lot, right? With the pandemic and everything, we're kind of, our daily lives are in Teams now. So it's really become, we used to say it was the hub for teamwork in Microsoft 365. Well, now it's kind of become the hub for all work. We're just living in it in our day-to-day lives. So we're chatting in it, we're having meetings, we're calling each other, we're sharing files, and we're using apps and workflows within it. So it really just makes perfect sense. Yeah, these are just examples here. Let me click through. That we should harness the growth of this Teams platform and the growth of the Power Platform and combine the two. Just some crazy stats that we have here with Teams. We've had over 75 million daily active users and more than 200 million meeting participants in a single day. This generates about 4.1 billion minutes of meeting. So that just goes to show the depth and the breadth of people that are using Teams. And then considering the Power Platform, that's used by over 97% of your Fortune 500 companies are using the Power Platform in some way to accelerate app creation and enable citizen devs. So the synergies are just really there. Rather than building your applications, for example, in Power Apps and having to have your users go out to one more portal to access something, bring that to Teams where they're already doing their work. So they don't have to navigate and jump back and forth. They can easily be chatting about something, link directly to a record in a Power App that you've created, and just makes sense. And there's lots of ways, that we can integrate. If we think about not just focusing on Power Apps, but on the Power Platform as a whole, we can integrate our Power BI dashboards and Power Automate with built-in approvals within Teams, so we don't have to be email bombed with approval messages. We can just get a nice Teams chat message. And Power Virtual Agents, which is something I'm pretty excited about too, and that integration to create low-code chatbots within Teams and that. So it's a great way to bring, and build those departmental tools and resources and process flows and all of that and workflows into Teams where users are. And I thought this would be kind of interesting because if any of you come from just a Teams background at all, and maybe you did some traditional development, I wanted to cover some of the main areas that you can use with Teams itself as an application platform and show where the synergies lie within the Power Platform in that. So there are a few main things that we use and interact with within Teams, and probably the most common one is tabs. So, you're working in a team, and you might have a tab for files and your conversations and a OneNote and all of that. So that's a great way to surface up rich context. Anything you can iframe into this, you can use and be embedded as a tab. And that's a good use case. We can have as tabs a Power App or a Power BI dashboard. The other big use case is bots. You can easily, with Azure Bot Framework and other tools, you can create bots and interact with that within Teams. And obviously a good use case for that with Power Platform tools is going to be Power Virtual Agents. There's some new functionality announced, which I'm going to dive into deeper when we talk about Power Apps, that is going to enable us to build chatbots with Power Virtual Agents inside of Teams at no additional cost. So you don't have to be a developer to be able to build a cool chatbot using PVA within Teams. Adaptive cards. So these are a way to add that rich interaction connector cards. So that's a good use case for Power Automate, because if you've ever used the built-in approvals with Power Automate and you posted that to Teams, it's using those adaptive cards so that you have those actionable buttons for approve or reject in there. So that's some synergies there. Same thing with the activity feed. So kind of like what I just said a second ago, rather than email bombing your users, harness Microsoft Teams and the chat functionality and post those messages and alerts and notifications in there with Power Automate and the Teams activity feed. And also the App Store. With Power Apps, we have the power to publish those applications or tenant app catalog and have them as actual full-fledged Teams applications. And we'll go through demos and samples of all this here in a second. Before we dive into the demo, I want to talk about the history of where we started and where we are now with the Teams and the Power Platform integration. So this all kind of started back in November of last year. That's when we really got the ability to publish our applications as Teams apps, as personal apps. Prior to that, we could use tabs, but that was about the extent of what we had as far as integrating our Power Apps within Teams. So that was a huge uptick in the utilization of both when we got that ability to add these and publish them as personal apps in Teams. So when we saw a big increase in people using it when we released that functionality. Fast forward to March of this year, and the pandemic hit, and everyone was using Teams like crazy, and we released this crisis communication template that was built within Power Apps. And we saw a crazy amount of people that were taking that template and deploying it into Teams, the Teams application, because that's where their users were. So that kind of really sparked all of this increased activity in the integration aspect of Teams and the Power Platform. So you fast forward to May 2020, that's when we added the ability for Power Virtual Agents, chatbots, to be used in Teams. And then August is when some new functionality was announced with deeper integration with Power Apps in the context of Teams. So, what are our options with Power Apps specifically, since kind of this is what this session is about? Few options here. One, you can add your Power App as a standalone app in a tab, which we kind of covered already. And that's going to be the easiest way probably to do that. The only thing with that is that's going to be dependent on the team that you're in. So if you hop back and forth between teams, you'll lose that access to your app. You'll have to dive into the teams to get to it. The other option is to package and deploy as a personal app. So users can go and add your application as a personal app for them to use. And expanding on that, you can package and deploy this as what's called a tenant application. So this will actually show up in that Teams App Store, and you can bind this with an application policy and have this automatically be added and pinned to that left rail within Teams for all of your users. So if you really wanted to scale out your Power Apps application and have it accessible to all of your Teams users, that's the way that you would deploy a standalone application, is as a tenant app. Another integration, so these are ways so far that I've highlighted how you can take a Power App and put it within Teams. But we have to consider the other flip of the coin on that, where we can actually integrate Teams data inside our Power Apps. So, you could have a Power App that can post messages to Teams and create maybe a provisioning system, view what teams you have. So there's that side of the integration possibilities as well. And then what I'm getting to with all of this is the ability to create fully integrated Teams apps with new functionality called Project Oakdale. So if any of you happen to catch Microsoft Ignite or just are on top of the latest feature announcements, and you probably heard a little bit about this Project Oakdale thing. So really what it is, it's just a low-code data platform specifically for Microsoft Teams that leverages Power Apps. So it's a subset of capabilities that behind Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform and the Common Data Service. So it's kind of a smaller subset of that intended for Teams. It's going to give you all of those nice features of the Common Data Service, like a relational database, and rich data types, and one-click solution deployment for Teams. This is just kind of a sample of what the interface looks like as far as creating a new table or what you would call an entity in a common data service within Project Oakdale. So it looks very SharePoint list-esque in a way, so you can just easily inline add your rows and your columns and even the data directly into the database. And this is just an example of what you'll have that one-click solution. So that was the Teams App Store. You can just click on your Project Oakdale-based application, and it's going to add that directly to the team of your choice. And one of the things that's great about this is it's going to have built-in security and governance, meaning it's going to inherit and take the permissions that you have with the team that you're using it in and kind of handle that for you. So you don't have to worry about going in and doing all this complex permissions. And, like, so normally, if you were to take a Power App that you've built as a standalone app and you try to integrate that into Teams, you have to worry about setting the permissions in the Power App itself, and then also whatever your permissions are in the Teams. So with Project Oakdale, that's just all baked in. It's going to take whatever permissions who has access to your team, and they'll have access to the application. And the thing that makes this so exciting is the fact that this is available at no additional cost. So traditionally, if you wanted to go build a Power App application that leveraged the common data service, you're going to have to pay the extra licensing. So like the $10 per user per app per month, or $40 a user if you're building multiple applications. With this, though, you're getting that lightweight version of the common data service called Project Oakdale. So you can build that within Teams, and it's included in your Teams licensing. So as long as your users are licensed and have access to Microsoft Teams, they can build and use Project Oakdale-based applications. And this Project Oakdale isn't just Power Apps, it's also including that Power Virtual Agent functionality. So Power Virtual Agents have their own standalone costs too, if you want to use that and integrate it, like say on your public website. But as part of this Project Oakdale offering, you're able to take Power Virtual Agent chatbots and build them to use within Teams at no additional cost as well. So how this is going to work, it's going to support high volume loads, so 1 million records for each team out of the box. So it's going to be on a per team basis. You're going to get one environment with that amount of storage, and you can build however many apps that you need with per team. So these apps, you can have apps and chatbots and automations on the back end and embed those into any team on any platform. So it's going to work just like Power Apps natively does on your desktop version of Teams or on your mobile version of Teams. And it's going to be responsive out of the box, which is awesome because if you've ever tried to build responsive Power Apps, it's a little bit of a pain. So the fact that if you build them with an Oakdale, it's responsive is a huge time saver. And you can leverage all the existing Power Platform capabilities and connectors that you can building it the standalone way versus building it with Project Oakdale. Another thing that's really cool is the ability that we're going to have to leverage Azure API Management Connector at no additional cost if you're creating Project Oakdale applications. So what that means is if you ever built an application where you needed to connect to a custom API, so you might have created a custom connector that goes to your some kind of legacy system that you have via an API. Well, now if you are leveraging Azure API Management to host and store that API, then you'll be able to consume that, and there's going to be a quick deploy public connector to that, so you don't have to worry about all the custom connector business. You just leverage that, and it's no additional cost, and you can access the data through that API. So that's going to be really huge. It's supposed to be, they said October 2020, and it's getting close to the end of the month. So hopefully that will be released pretty soon to be able to start using. And one of the other good things about this is the fact that there's a good upgrade path to this. So there might be a use case where perhaps you would need to scale out of a Project Oakdale application. Maybe you need a little bit more advanced functionality. So there'll be a simple upgrade path to the full-fledged common data service that you can take advantage of. So one of the things you're probably wondering is, what does this mean? Like, when would I use this, or what are the feature comparisons between, say, Project Oakdale, SharePoint list, and the common data service as it is today? So I'm going to try to put together this table to highlight some of the main differences in the features. So for one, all of these, whether it's SharePoint list, Project Oakdale, actually I shouldn't have put CDS in there. I made a mistake. That's not included. I was doing that fast. There we go. So with SharePoint list and Project Oakdale, those are going to be included in your M365 licenses, but the common data service is not. So that's one distinguishing factor. Then we need to get into the concept of row limitations. With SharePoint list, you can actually have quite a bit of rows, those 30 million rows. The main problem, though, when you're using that within Power Apps is your delegation, right? You're going to run into more delegation issues. Even though you can store 30 million rows, actually accessing those might be a pain depending on how much data and how you're needing to filter and return it because of the delegation issues. With Project Oakdale, you're going to be able to have 1 million rows or 2 gigabytes per environment, which is per team. And Common Data Service, you have 4 terabytes of data. So that's kind of the comparison there. As far as how the environments go, again, SharePoint lists, they don't have the concept of a Power Platform environment. Those are different. With Project Oakdale, you get 1 environment per team, and that can be within up to 500 teams right now. So you do have that cap at 500 different teams and the environments within those. Common Data Service, on the other hand, the full-fledged version, you're going to get unlimited environments. And then, of course, you have to consider relational data. SharePoint lists are great for building simple applications and just getting started and, building applications that don't cost an arm and a leg. But it's not a true relational database. So you're having to do a lot of, kind of workarounds with lookup columns and all of that to make a quasi-relational database out of the SharePoint list structure. Whereas with Oakdale and both the Common Data Service, you're getting that rich relational database. The rest of the comparisons are really between Project Oakdale and the Common Data Service. So with Oakdale, you're still going to have the ability to import and export these Oakdale-based applications as solutions so you can deploy to different tenants. You're also going to have the ability, it's not there in this current iteration, but it is coming to have model-driven applications within Project Oakdale and data visualizations as well. So where it starts, the features start to fall off is when you get to mobile offline, relevant search, and exporting to data lake. Those functionalities aren't going to be included in the Project Oakdale, but you can take advantage of those in the Common Data Service as it is today. Okay. And with that, I'm just going to jump over to demo now. No questions. There's any questions on that before I move on to the demo? I know I covered a lot about Oakdale and all that, so feel free to come off mute if you have anything. Okay, so I thought I'd just walk through the few ways that we can integrate Power Apps within Teams. And again, I'm going to start with the simplest way. So, and that's adding one as a tab. So if you have an application, say like this training portal app that I have, and I want to be able to use that here within my HR General tab, I can easily do that by clicking on the plus in the channel and going to the Power Apps application. And this is going to give me a list of all the different applications and Power Apps that I have access to. So I can just do a search for that training app and click Save. And this is going to iframe this in as a tab so that I can start using this within this particular Teams channel. So that's really as simple as that to get up and running with integrating this Power App within Teams. The other way, and let me go to make.powerapps.com so we can take a look at this, is by what I call adding it as into the left rail, which is this area here. You see we have like store and Teams Provisioner and all of that. So we can actually add in a Power App to here so it's stuck on this left rail for everyone to access. So this is also pretty much fully baked in. So if we go to our Power Apps portal and click on the Apps tab, you can find the application that you want to add into Teams that way and select it, and we'll see an option here in the header to add to Teams. And when we click that, you're going to get a summary of all of this. We can go to advanced settings and see some information here. One of the things, you can like add your partner ID if you're building an application and deploying it into Teams as a partner, so you get credit for that. But all you have to do is click download app. And what this is going to do is download and save a zip file to your computer that has everything that Teams expects to be able to upload an app into the app catalog. So it's going to have that manifest file and a link to your Power App. And it's going to take your Power App title and the icon and use that for the Teams App Store. So now that I have that, all I have to do is go back in Teams. And let's click that there. And there's an option below to join or create, or sorry, not there, to apps, go to apps. And there's an option for upload a custom app. And when we click that, we have two different options. So this is where the tenant applications that I talked about and the personal applications come into play. So if you upload for me or my teams, you're adding this as a personal application. But if you select upload for, and this is going to have the name of your tenant, that means you're adding that as a tenant application. So that's going to enable you to create an app setup policy and add that application into there so that every user is going to have this application pinned here to the left rail if you enforce that. Otherwise, they would have to manually add that themselves. It would be discoverable for them, but it'll be a manual process. So that's the big difference. So you click upload, either option that you want, select your zip file and click open. And that's going to, and I've already did that for this one. So when you do that, it's going to add that here in this app store. So if I do a search, for example, for training, we can see that it's going to look like just all of these other Teams applications that we have. But this is actually our Power App. So if we wanted to use that, we would click on it and you'd have an add button. So I've already actually did this. And what that does when you click add is it's going to show up here on the left rail. I haven't pinned this yet, so we'll have to click on the dots and then we'll see all the other applications that we have installed for Teams. And I see my training app right there. So we could take this a step further if we wanted, kind of like I did for this company store. You see how it's the second one from the top on here? I went and configured an app setup policy to add in this Power Apps application and pin it there. And that's something that you have to do from the Teams admin portal. So you have to be an administrator to do this, but you can request that to be added if you don't have access to that. And it's really simple, just a matter of going into there and there's an app setup policy section. Go. So you expand out Teams app and there's a settings policy. And you can have different ones. So you might have an org-wide setup policy. You might have one, say, for your different divisions of your company. But you just go into the setup policy that you want to configure. And now that we've added that application there, we can go to our pinned apps section and we can click add and do a search for that training application. And there's that Power App that we just added. So I can click add there, add one more time. Now it's going to show up as a pinned, and I can even change the order here. So I'm just going to move that up a bit. Say I'll just move it right there for now. Click save, and now that will be pinned there for every user, so they don't have to click those three dots to see that application there. And this could take a little while to show up for everyone, so it could take a few hours, so it might not show up right away when you do that. So just keep that in mind. Now the other way though, so I've showed you that's if you currently have an application that you went out to make.powerapps.com and you've built it in what I call the standalone way, right? But the other functionality that we have is that Project Oakdale functionality. And to use that, this is all going to be done within the context of Teams. So you'll go into your apps and you'll need to add in the Power Apps application. So you'll do a search there and make sure that this is installed. And once you have that installed, then you'll see it here in the left-hand side, and you can open that up. And this is a fully baked Power Apps editor for Teams so that you can build these Project Oakdale-based applications. One of the cool things that we have here, if you're just getting started with Project Oakdale, is they've included 3 different templates that you can use to get started. The one that I think is pretty cool is this inspection one, just because there's a lot of different use cases. There's many areas where we might do an inspection of some sort. There's also employee ideas and issue reporting. And to use one of these apps in your Teams, it's really simple. So you would click on the app itself, and it's going to show you kind of some screenshots of what it can do, give you an idea. You click add to a team. You're just going to search the team that you want to add it in. It's going to show you all the channels within that team. So you can select from the list. And you click setup tab, and it's just going to go and do its thing for a little bit. This could take up to 5 minutes. I'm going to click save here. This is going to take this application to deploy it, and once it does, it's ready to use. There's some additional configuration you can do on this admin app side of it, but that's really all that we have to do from a setup standpoint. And this is if you've ever tried to take an application and package it up as a template like this and use SharePoint as your data source, like I have, then you'll know that's a little bit complex of a setup process because there's not a really great way to automatically provision your underlying database when you're doing it that way. I mean, you can create a flow that goes and does it, but it's kind of a tedious process to set up and get that configured. So that's a big benefit with Oakdale is the ability to package these up easily and start using them. So you see it added that in here. And what you get with these applications is two different apps. So you have inspection and manage inspection. So the inspection would be the end user application that they would see to actually create an inspection. So when you first open it, of course, it's going to have you authenticate into the connectors. So you just allow. Let's see, this is a fully baked application where you get this nice landing page to see your individual task and what's due. As you kind of saw in the connectors, there's integration with Planner in here automatically. So we can perform an inspection. And one of the things that you'll notice with these Oakdale-based applications is it looks very Teams-esque. It's inheriting the color and everything of Teams. And even the controls look different. So you can see like the buttons and everything. They just look a little bit different. This is because it's using new technology for these controls called Fluent components. And I believe this look and feel is coming to your native Power Apps applications as well. For these leverages the Fluent framework for these controls. So you can click on the different categories, select a location from here, and it's going to show you a checklist of different inspections that you can have. So I can go into, for example, filled with that I would go through for that. While that's loading, there we go. There it goes. Cool. So what it's going to do is going to ask you some questions, so you have an associated picture. So, the racks are filled with suitable products. Is that yes or no? Did this pass the inspection? And you just walk through, and with each of these, we can have associated photos and notes and tasks as well. So pretty cool app. And like I said, for many different use cases that you can customize this for. The other side of this application is the management side. So this is where you'd actually go and configure what inspection options show for your end users. So this is going to load. There we go. First thing it's going to have you do is set up the planner tasks that you want to add these tasks to. So it's going to let you point to a channel in the planner. You click continue, and that's where these tasks are going to be stored once you configure that. Also for image storage, you can go set that up and have these images if you want to be pasted and pulled in from SharePoint as well. So I'm just going to skip that for now because I just want to show you the admin side of things. So this is where you could come in. These are those new Fluent gallery views. So this is a Power Apps gallery that we're seeing here. And as we click that, it's filtering the data that's showing here. We have this nice dashboard page of inspection insights where we can see the pending and open inspections and all of that. And then we have the ability to customize the form. So those actual questions that show up on the checklist that's where you would customize this here. So you can walk through and have define action buttons and all of that. So really simple to get set up. So I'll go back. So that's one of the sample apps. And let me go back real quick into Power Apps and just show you the experience if you want to create a new app in Oakdale from scratch. So to do that, from the homepage here, you just select create an app. And again, it's going to ask you, so every time that you build an application in Oakdale, you're tying it to a specific team. So there's not a way right now with Oakdale to really have it as an app on the left rail, like we saw with one of the standalone apps that I did with the training portal. It's always going to be associated with a specific team when you do this. So I'll select this finance one, and we'll tie it to that and click create. Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat here. Exactly. It's you get a ton of UX improvements in addition to, so it's a free model to build Power Apps based Teams apps with some great UI UX improvements too. Yeah. All right, and so now we're going to give our app a name. Let's see, what's a good app? Let's call this time off, I guess. We'll go with that. And I just want to show the experience of how easy it is to create a database for your application within this Project Oakdale database. So it's going to save here. Hopefully it's was having like network issues earlier when it was being slow, so hopefully I'm not having that again, but we'll see. But once that saves, it's really just a matter of creating a new table, and it's going to have that really Excel list-esque type experience creating that, similar like what I showed in the PowerPoint in that screenshot. So worst case, we won't have that, but while that's loading though, one thing that I want to show to you is just another aspect of things that you can do with this. So if we look on Teams here, let me go back here actually. And I'm going to do a search for Teams. I got problem when you have so many apps here. It's hard to find the app that you're wanting. Gonna sort that by name. Oh, I know why. It's in a different environment. I just want to show you the flip side of the coin is how another way that you could use this integration too is to actually provision your teams. So I've created an application that's a Teams provisioner, which is pretty cool. So it's if you want to govern your team's environments and not just open it up so everyone can create a new team, you can actually create a Power App that will help you provision your teams. So this is kind of what I did here. I'm using the Microsoft Teams connector for Power Apps, and I'm surfacing up all the teams that we have, and we can request a new team from here. And so this will be a fully automated process to, I can add in a team name, in a description, I can choose if I want this to be a public or private team and define any owners. And it's going to submit a request in the back end. It's going to have a Power Automate flow, and it's going to look and see if a team exists, and it's going to automatically apply whatever team settings we want for that and create the team for us. So it's kind of a fully functional Teams provisioning engine that we have here. So if I go back to Teams, the flow is probably just taking a minute to set off, but the flow will get kicked off and automatically create that team for us. Just another side of the coin of what you can do with that. That's still being a little bit slow for us. One more thing I want to show that I think is really cool, I know I'm getting a little close on time here, is the ability that we have to deep link into a Power App that's embedded within Teams. So one of the things that I covered in one of my YouTube videos is deep linking. So say that you have a link on a SharePoint page to say like submit a new time off request here, and your application for time off might have a landing page like this, and that's the default page. So you might need a deep link that takes them directly to the new request screen. That's something that we can also do within Teams itself. So to kind of show how this works, I have a training site, and so we're using our training app here. And if I were to go in and add a new training to this, so I'm just going to go over to YouTube real quick. Let's see, I'll just take a video. We'll get the link, and I'm going to add this into my training application. Okay. We'll call this Power Apps HTML control, and we'll click save. So behind the scenes in the Power App, I'm actually posting a message to our Teams channel. So that's one of the things that we can do at Teams integration. So I've added that in here. If I go to the Teams and I go to our training general site, you'll see that a message was posted. That new training has been posted. Click here to view the course. So what this link is going to do, if I click on that, it's going to go to our Power App that we have embedded within Teams and take me directly to that particular training. So I can watch and see that training from this application. So that's an example of deep linking. So multiple integration points going on here. I'm posting messages from the application, and I'm taking a link and being able to go directly to a particular video. And it's really not too complex to do. If we look at the app on start, there's a parameter that Teams uses called sub entity ID. So we can use that to pass parameters and do this deep linking. And we can take that then, and how I'm doing the posting to the Teams channel is if we click the button, that's where that's happening. So I'm going to format this text. And we're just using the Teams connector. So if we look at our connectors here, I've added that in here. And there's an action within that connector called post message to channel. So it's going to have you pass in the group ID and the channel ID, which I've just hard coded here. and then the content you want to post. So I've put in some HTML here, passing in, getting in the name of the title of the training that I just added, passing it in the ID and that sub entity ID. And that's it. So it's going to post that content in the link. And then the Power App then can read it and take that sub entity ID that I have from my app on start. And so what I'm saying is, if that is not blank, then look up the course and navigate me to the training details screen. Otherwise, if it is blank, then just act like normal, like you're pulling it up, and just show us this default landing page. Okay. I don't know what's going on with old Oakdale here. It's like crapping out on me. Maybe if I go into one, let's try going into one that I already created. That might work. And if that doesn't work, then we'll call it good. There's lots of demos out there showing this too. Okay. Yeah, so this is a good point though, to show like, how do you see apps that you've already built in Oakdale? So you'll click on this build tab and you'll see all the different team sites that you have. So built by this team are going to be custom apps that you have, and installed apps will be like those template ones that you installed for this particular team. So I could go into this application for the HR, for example, and that's going to open it up and edit so I can make any changes that I need. And one thing to point out with this, so I mean, it's been a little bit slow for me and the tables weren't loading. This still is in preview. So just expect, if you're starting to use it, a lot of changes, as with anything that's in a preview. And they're constantly going to be adding and changing things to this. So keep that in mind. You might do something one week and the next week is totally different. All right. So from here, let's see, that's the one that I did. Let's go back. That's not a good example. Let's go to the finance test one again, or IT. Let's try this one more time. See if it. How are we doing on time? Because I don't want to spend too much on this if it's just going to be slow.
We got till midnight.
Till midnight. Okay.
We're good as long as you want to go.
Okay. I just wanted to show like the easiness of creating the database. If it would just collaborate with me, that'd be awesome.
I had that problem earlier today.
Slow.
Okay. Oh, cool. It actually loaded. Awesome. So what you'll do here is click create a new table. So right directly within the application, we're creating a database in Project Oakdale. So I can call this, we'll just go with the contact example. Click create. And this is our table editor. So we can see it's going to give us a default field of name, similar like what SharePoint does with the title field. If we want to add a new column, we can just click this plus button and we can give it a name. So you might want their email address. And then we have all of these field types. So we can click the drop down. We can see there's actually a field type for email. So we have Booleans, we have choice, lookups, decimals, dates, numbers, auto numbers, all of that. So let's select the email option. You have the advanced options if you click expand, so you can adjust, for in this instance, the max length, and these options will change depending on what type of field you select. So it's just a matter of clicking create and just repeating the process. You'll see how simple it is. So we can have a phone option here. There's a field for that as well. Again, advanced options, same. And let's see, maybe we have a job title. We'll just leave that as a text. It's super simple, super intuitive. And directly from in here, we can start populating the data as well. So I can put in my contact info. And just tab over and keep adding the data in there. So that's really all there is. So now we have, 4 columns built automatically in our database with a row of data populated in that. There's different views you have too. So again, similar to SharePoint, you can have like a compact view, comfortable view, just kind of changes the look there. And we can just click out of that. It's going to automatically save it when we click out in the back end, and it's going to add that into our Power App as a data repository, and it's going to automatically populate this default gallery that we're seeing here with that information and a form to the right. So in a few clicks, I was able to have the contact application built. It's pretty dang simple. So I can save that. and click preview so we can see there's the information. I can add a new record. It just changes the form there. And boom, it's just that simple. So pretty cool. I'm really excited about this functionality. There's a lot that you can do with it. Again, they're just going to keep adding new features and functionality with it. Yeah, so back to the slides here real quick. I want to leave you with some resources. So there's some great documentation out there right now. So if you just want a general overview of Project Oakdale, that's a link that I would reference there. There's also some good documentation that goes into each of the sample applications we looked at. So the inspection, employee ideas, and all of that. So it's going to dive into the specifics of each of those. And then just talking about Power Apps and Teams as a whole, not necessarily just Project Oakdale. That's a good post on the docs.microsoft.com. I encourage you to go out to, because it's going to talk about, adding as a tab and all of that. If you want to learn more about those fluent controls and like keep up to date when those are going to be added to the normal Power Apps portal experience, that's a good blog post to follow. If you want more on that deep linking functionality that I briefly showed, there's another good post. And then of course my YouTube channel. But with that, figured I'd leave a few minutes if there's any questions or anything you want me to go back over. That's all I had besides that.
Applause goes here, folks. Okay. We got sound effects somewhere.
Nice. Thank you very much for that. Is there a way to, so can we do it? I'm assuming attach a Power Automate to this?
Yeah, exactly. So this is just, leveraging like the lightweight CDS, so we can still like run flows directly from Power Apps like you could here, or like when a new record is added. Yeah.
So question in the audience here, we do stuff for medical and need to demonstrate validation for our software. Is there validation out there already in the, maybe one of the connectors, maybe one of the routines, maybe a pattern somewhere?
Well, for like, I don't know if you mean like specific field validation, like, so for example, in this contact scenario that I showed, there are already field types for email address and phone. So that's going to do built-in validation because of that, the way the field type is. So if I were to, yeah, like in those specific ones, let's see, go type a new email and just do that and try to submit it. It has built-in validation in that case. Yeah. Same thing for the phone.
Yeah, okay. A quick question. So the Project Oakdale stuff that's out there right now, is this potentially available on anyone's tenant, or does it need something special, or do we have to wait for this?
It should. It's public preview now, so it should be propagated through everyone's tenant now. Yep.
All right. So unless, of course, your IT has specifically gone in and said, no way. If you had enough, if you have enough power on your teams, that is, you can to do apps like normal, regular apps, you can add it. Technically speaking, unless you were totally like you're just a reader, you're a visitor, that's it, enjoy your stay and that's all, then of course you can't get to it. You have to have some power. Now, for folks that want to play with this, remember that Microsoft offers for free what's called the Dev Tenant in the Office 365 Developer Program. And it's even so, though it says developer program, it's for anyone who really wants to play. And the only caveat for it is you don't try to use it for your business or sell stuff or do any of that crazy stuff. Use it in place of what you should have been paying for regularly. But if you use it often enough, every 90 days, it renews for free. So stuff like this you can play with. All right. One more caveat. If you're trying to do the heavy duty Power App stuff, the stuff that needs what's called the premium license, just like in a real tenant, you have to pay for that. But this is like a gateway drug over here. CDS included with Teams. I'm telling you, heroin has got nothing on this. I'm telling you, this is
exactly. And piggybacking off your Office developer program, if you want to just try out building some, Power App stuff that's premium, like the full-fledged common data service or custom connectors and all that, there's a Power Apps community plan for the same reason. So you can also get that too, in combination with that Office 365 dev plan, so that you can test out some of the premium Power Apps functionality.
Right. So that's on the separate side, the community plan for the Power Apps. Essentially, with the dev program and that, you have a powerhouse combination of trying everything out for essentially your time. Because that's all. That's what it's just. The only cost of this is just how long you're going to take, or if you have to sit around like April was waiting for her app to update and looking at the screen, getting I got other things to do.
Yeah.
That's the kind of time that we're talking about. Wow, really nice. I'm done with my questions, and let's see. Hold on a second. Jeff is looking for something. He's looking for something more specific on validation. Might be something slightly different. We can find out in a little bit. Jeff, welcome. Is there something, if you can give us an example of what do you mean by validation in your particular case?
I don't know if any of you are like in the medical device industry, but they have rigors. I mean, like I'm sure Microsoft does full software validation. That's what I'm looking for, not like column validation or data validation, but the entire software composition.
Oh, you mean like in the past, Microsoft used to do that. They used to give them their software to them or give your hardware, and they'd have like a huge campus over there. They would test everything, and then they would give it the blessing and say, remember that Microsoft certified? I don't know if you're as old to remember that little big certification that they gave for a Microsoft app, Windows certified application. Is that what you're looking for, essentially, for somebody to, say, validate you have something that is worthy of being called a medical thing? Is that what you're looking for?
Kind of. You know, I'm accumulating records of measurements of our product, and this is kind of a gray area as to whether or not I need validation. But there are certain types of software that have to be rigorously validated. So you have to look at your inputs, your outputs, and your final production. All right. So IQ, OQ, PQ.
I got it. So I said I did work with Abbott, so I have an idea what you might be talking about. Abbott, AbbVie, you know, those guys, they do medical devices and stuff.
Yes.
So one of the key pieces on the data side was especially they went to a lot of third parties. Microsoft wasn't really big on this back in the day, but now on the Office 365 tenant, you have essentially all the regulatory security and compliance pieces, including all the medical regulations. So if data is involved, Microsoft does that. But they won't, of course, look at a device specifically or what a software is looking for specifically. They will look at the data as long as it's kept somewhere that can be seen, like a tenant or an Azure, especially it's in Azure, right, in the cloud. They can look at that data and say, okay, that data is compliant by regulations here in Europe, regulations in the United States, you name it. They have like almost all country and medical regulations for just about every country. So if you're looking for that kind of validation, or at least like reporting to say, here's your data, definitely. That's a security and compliance. There's a lady who does the blogs on that. We're trying to get her for a speaker. Do you have that handy, Craig? Joanne Klein. Yes. If we can paste that link for you. She's the lady to ping and can talk to you about it because she has done several medical firms recently, and she can probably give you a good push for that.
Okay. It's on my project list. We're grading to ISO 13485 certification.
Yes.
Processes and boy, I've got a big project, you know?
Yes. Yes, for the data stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, yeah, and for everything else, but you know, like I said before, I'm the quality guy, and I'm trying to make stuff happen that, you know, most people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on, and we're going from a handwritten form. I need to have automated processes as much as possible. So I've built a lot, but
I'm pasting you her link. And she has a lot of blogs on a lot of the different systems out there on regulations. She would be the first person I would go to for that information. At least she would be the pointer to where a lot of that is. Otherwise, you have to if you open up your own Office Dev tenant, or if you look at your own tenant in the Office 365, there's a security and there's a compliance center. In there, there's a whole bunch of starter information. Pick your industry and basically have at it, and it'll just give you crazy amounts of information.
Excellent. Enough to confuse an auditor.
Well, yeah, not just confuse an editor. It'll be like an auditor. If the auditor said, "I want all this," and they're like, "Good luck getting that," and all of a sudden you give it to them, and 2 seconds later they're like, "Oh, now I'm here for the next 6 months." Exactly, sir. Good luck. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Yes. That's my favorite. I ran an e-discovery once, and the first time I did that, and I saw all the information that came out, and they're like, "So, what?" And then the guy asked me, "What do I do with all this information?" That's what you asked for, pretty much, right? It's like, yeah, I was really upset. It was like there was so much information. I'm like, well, that's if I was a compliance person and that was my bread and butter, I would say, wow, great information. But since I don't do your job, I really cannot, say that was a good or bad thing. But it's almost like getting all your work done for you, done. You told people to do your work, and then all of a sudden it all got done. You're like, oh, now what'll I do in my vacation? All done. Yep. Okay. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, a lot. Thank you.
Great. I think we can. Anything else? Any other questions on the Power App side, the Power Automate side? This was a lot of juicy stuff that we could play with. And I'm going to be watching this video again because she brought up some stuff that's not on her other videos in one place yet.
Yeah, really nice stuff. Thanks again, April. Yeah, I'm going to watch it because there's some information I wanted to see again.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Ralph, do you want to take us home with the updates from Ignite?
Okay, let's see. You got the slides there handy? Hold on, let me see if I can just share it on my screen.
You should be able to just share them with your screen. I shared the slides with you.
Yeah, you sure did. Sharing. Okay, I got to share my screen. Uh-oh. Hold on a second. Let me get to the right page on the slide so that we start in the proper place. All right, I'm sharing. Desktop number 2. Oh, nope. Before clicking on share, remember to turn on your audio if you have to share audio for any reason. Because the moment you click, it's over. Game over. All right. Here we go. All right. MS Ignite announcements. So we're looking at just the Power Platform related stuff because there was a lot of obviously announcements that they made. We could be here a long time just talking about them, and oh my gosh, just looking at this alone, I'm already dizzy. Just this is the bits that we saw covered over here, and with some of the details. We're going to save this slide for you guys to look at the slides later, so you can look at these details. But let's go ahead and let's just deep dive these a little bit. Here are some key items. There is a book of news. This is something that they sort of started recently with. I've seen it in Build. I've seen it in a few other areas. If you're attending a Microsoft conference, ask around for whatever book of news they have for that conference. My recommendation for getting in one place all that information. So let's go ahead through a few of the key items over here. One of them, the good old acquisition of Soft Motive leads to the RPA feature expansion. Some of this stuff, by the way, have been covered by the session we just heard. The idea over here with the RPA, I'll tell you my biggest takeaway for this one is automating your Windows-based tasks. So if you can remember back in the day, they had robots, they had, what was it, MS Test and a whole bunch of other tools where we used to like fake our work by actually making it click on the Excel cell, copy something to something else and send out them email, and we're like, it looked like we did it. Essentially, that's now come to Power Automate. That power of touching essentially Windows services in the back end to make that happen. That's actually pretty powerful. What that can do, there's just too many applications. We don't have time to cover that here at this time, but I have a feeling we're going to have a session on this one day soon. The next one, Infuse Teamwork with Data Insights and Power BI. So this is on the Power BI sites. I'm an Excel guy. The way I came to this whole thing was being the Excel guy who told the developers I know better than they do. And so they hired me instead. So I basically shut up from the user perspective, and I did. Visualizing Excel data sets in Teams. This is what's the last bastion now. We have Excel. We can look in Excel always do that. But now if we can just look at the data set in Teams a little bit more natively, just more intuitively than having to go in and out. It's like sometimes when I'm using Excel in Teams, I say, oh, heck with it. Let me just open up the client app because I've had enough of this. This gets me in the right direction towards that. Next one, per user, Power BI Premium. Is that a credit card in your pocket? Like, well, for the Power BI folks who are familiar with that, they know that it could cost an arm and a leg and some other small countries' budget to get the best of Power BI. Well, they're apparently giving those to those big spenders, that ability to have it essentially at the individual level. Of course, they're going to give you some perf improvements with that. But that's something that before, if you wanted to do that, you had to be at an enterprise level to do. So that's a big deal. And hey, people have money to burn. And remember, this expense report could use a new entry. All right. More items here. The deployment pipelines for BI content. So DevOps essentially is the developer operations, and what we call because I also now a developer after being the Excel guy. We like the idea of putting something someplace and it automatically finding its way somewhere where it's tested, put in the right place, no fat fingering of data, no Office 365 goes down because someone mishandled a security. Oh, wait a minute, that really happened. But you see what I'm saying? It's the idea of having to push things through a process. For Power BI, essentially a lot of that was manual by hand or using scripts that were essentially everyone had their own, rolled their own. Now they're making that possible to do as part of the entire process. That's great. We talked earlier about Azure API management connectors, essentially for the developers now to have the power that all the low-code folks do. Hey, the developers need some low-code love too. It's like, hey, I'm busy developing. I don't have time to do this little stuff. Well, that's what this is for. Great. GitHub integration, the same thing for the DevOps folks, the same in same similar fashion. This is in public feature. In the case of GitHub integration, we saw that earlier for deployment pipelines for Power BI. Now for the Power Platform itself. When Power Platform first came out, I've always asked, can I script this? Because having to do this by hand, to show it by hand, to make a demonstration, wouldn't it be cool, April, if like every time you did a demo, you just with one flash wiped out everything, with the next flash, everything's all created, all fresh and pristine. I don't have to undo anything. Wouldn't that be great?
That'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome. So, hey, this is our gateway to get there. You know, if this works, we potentially have our mini Terraform for our platform. Just saying. Power Virtual Agents. Hearts, the virtual Azure bot framework. Now, the problem with Power Virtual Agents when it came out, a great idea, and they kept asking me, why aren't you using it? And I'm like, $1,000 a month. Well, we'll renew your trial. I know, but I can't keep doing that, and I can't sell it to my IT guy. If the moment he hears $1,000 a month, I said, I have this kid making an Azure bot for me, and he did it for nothing. You know, it's like, well, I can't beat that. Right. So other than, of course, the first gateway in the team side where there's that RPA happening over there. The idea was, if I can't modify this, if you're going to give me something that's so pinned down and charge me a lot of money, I damn better be able to customize it. This is the gateway to get there, the Azure Bot Framework, to be able to make that work. So this is going to happen any day now. They said it was coming in October. Hopefully we'll see it soon. Of course, with that, of course, is more in Power Apps with Azure. Here's a quick link to take a look. I'm just putting this up here to see what you can do with Azure. The concept is for those who need to expand it and go further, there's a lot of power there. A lot of the times for us citizen developers and us developers, we're at loggerheads. Like, hey, we're going to do it here. Hey, we're going to do it there. And never the twain wants. It's like one force pushing the other to go their direction. Well, really, truly, friends, the forces work together. And if the forces know at least we're not where the battle lines are, actually where the goodies are. If they know where the goodies are, they can work together. And that's what I think this blog is actually pretty neat about showing where those pieces are. I think the developers and the so-called low code developers, or in other words, the business users, can work together very, very well. The farmer and the rancher can be friends, my folks, just like the musical. And I believe that's it. Our next meeting on December. Why? Because of the M365 Virtual Chicago Conference, Friday, November 13th. Yes, what can go wrong on Friday the 13th? If you're not already registered for that, we highly recommend it. There's going to be some major speakers. We have some major keynotes as well. Joel Olson, Mark Cashman. So far, there is more coming to that list. Other folks that you may have heard of that are also speaking on this list. A lot of people.
I believe April's speaking with somebody.
I was going to say, April, you have a partner in this one, I believe.
Yeah, David Warner. Yep.
I was drawn. He spoke at our last meeting, and
he did. David and Hugo Bernier.
Yeah, I just spoke with Hugo this morning on the Power Apps community call. Yep.
There we go. And so this is a small world for us right over here. But all these folks, including Hugo, including David, including yourself, and a lot of others, Even I'm talking licensing because somehow I became the licensing guy. I don't know how that happened, but that's going to come up on that conference, and we hope as many of you and your friends can make it to that session. MS Ignite, we just have a link over here for the recorded sessions to go check it out. They're all available. Please do take advantage of those. Double the speed, slow the speed down, however you like. Where are we at? Oh, we're our members. So we're still doing Meetup. We have a LinkedIn group. So we're still paying for Meetup right now.
Yeah. That's how we got most of our members. So
we're gonna hold on to that for a little while.
Yeah, because you can't export the members out, so it's hard.
I know it's hard. I know the other user group decided to move all fully to LinkedIn because they got so big. It was getting expensive for them, actually. Interesting. Thoughts? All right.
I'll have to look into it, but for right now, it's funded. So
I saw a posting on the Power Platform user group things in general. Last questions of the day. Craig, I will pass it on to you to lead this segment.
That's it. Unless anybody has any further questions.
That's all, folks. Anything else?
Right now, I am fighting with my dog because he decided that he didn't want to stay.
I heard a dog. Yes.
Yeah, he's been annoying. He's trying to eat everything in my office.
Is that like a little dog?
Yeah, it's
because I can hear that
10-month-old Tracker Spaniel. He's just
the little rocker sound.
I had him downstairs, but he was just barking his head off because nobody was down there with him.
Okay. Dogs will be dogs. Okay, yeah. Folks, if there's nothing else, we won't keep you from dinner or any other evening activities. Thanks once again to April. I know
they will be
the recording. We'll turn this around as quickly as
we can.
There's
the guy. He's causing the trouble.
There he is.
How cute.
The little floof. The little Wooster.
Again, one more thank you again, April, for graciously.
It's a pleasure having you. We look forward to your next show.
Yes.
Thanks. Yep, it was fun.
And look forward to hearing from you on the 13th.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Have a good night, people.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care, all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Let's see if I can figure out how to stop this.
Figure out how to do the ending music.
Yes. Stop.